When 425 first asked me to come and be part of this event and part of this great group of women you're going to hear from tonight, I was initially a little resistant. Why do they think I'm a woman to watch? What do I have to say that you would spend your hard-earned money and your time to come listen to? And as I pondered that, I started thinking about people in my life that I watch, the men and women who inspire me and that I want to emulate. And I thought about who they are and what they're about. And I found a few common themes. The first is they all have a beautiful, committed faith. They're all kind to people who are like them and people who aren't like them. They're all generous with their time, with their listening. They've been generous with their love to me, with their resources, with their words, and they all have joy. And although I have room for improvement in lots of those areas in my life, I've made a few steps on my journey toward generosity, and that's what I get to talk with you about tonight. Generosity is a powerful force that has affected my life in beautiful ways, and that's why I believe that generosity changes everything. You probably don't need to think about, studies don't need to get done on the recipients of generosity. If you give something to someone who's hungry, if you give them food, they're going to be happier probably and feel a little bit better off. But did you know that generosity changes the givers too? There's actually a bunch of studies that have been done on it for years, and more are being done now because people are becoming fascinated with this whole thing. There's a social science study that's been done for decades, and they do it every other year, and they're measuring this generosity thing, these people giving. And what they found is that people that give their time and their money are 43% more likely to say they are very happy than people who don't give. In fact, there was a study done on a college campus, university campus, and they gave a bunch of college students a $20 bill. And they said, okay, half of you are supposed to spend it on yourself, and half of you are supposed to give it away. And at the end of the experiment, they measured the happiness of these students, and in every single case, the students who gave the money were happier than the students who spent it on themselves. They experienced more joy from generosity than from consumption. And I don't know about you, but when I was in college, I was poor, and $20 would have gone a long way on stuff I wanted to spend on myself. But generosity changed them. There's also some medical studies that have been done where they're measuring the chemical stuff that's happening in people's bodies as they give. I don't know how you do measure that while people are giving, but while people are volunteering, they've actually hooked nodes up to their heads and measuring stuff in their bodies. And people that give their time and their resources, all these studies are showing this over and over and over, that their endorphins go up. That's the happy stuff, right? That's the runner's high stuff. And their stress hormones go down. And I think I could use a little more of that endorphin and a little less stress in my life. Who knew that the givers could experience the joy of generosity? And so I get to see a little bit of that joy every day in the work that I do at 1010 Strategies. I have a consulting firm, and as Amity said, I get to walk alongside families and organizations and businesses who are giving their resources. I get to help them make a bigger impact on the things that they care about in the world and get more joy from their giving. And I have to tell you, it is such a privilege to walk alongside families and businesses and organizations that are experiencing this joy, and they're kind of surprised by it. And it's super fun, and it's such a privilege to do. And I've gotten to experience some of that joy in my own life again and again in my own life. I was going to say something about that I've now forgotten. Every time I respond to that nudge in my spirit to be generous, and if I actually respond to it, to give a kind word, to give my resources, to give my time, I get joy. It happens every time. And every time I hesitate or I don't do it, I always regret it. So, one of those ways that I've gotten to experience that joy of generosity is with some kids in Uganda. These are my kids in Uganda. I'm going to get teary just looking at that picture of them. I was on my way to Uganda. I'd been there several times. My husband and I were going again this time to see some of the organizations that my clients had funded and check up on their work, to see some of the people we loved there. And we were actually taking some friends this time to have them explore the developing world with us. But this time was different. Eric and I felt like we were being called to go deeper. We didn't know what it was, but we knew we weren't supposed to explore more organizations who were doing good work, although there are many, and it's beautiful. We knew we were supposed to go deeper somewhere or with something, but we didn't know what it was. And so we were kind of trying to pay attention the whole time we were there, stiffen out, like, what is it, what is it, what is it? And then we met these kids. This is Michael and his sisters. Their parents are both dead. In this picture, this is when we met them. Michael's 15. They only had the clothes that they're wearing. They were living in a broken down mud hut, no shoes, and one of the girls had a pretty serious wound on her leg and no opportunity for medical care. They would go to school sometimes, but they'd get kicked out all the time because they couldn't afford to buy a uniform. Uniforms for a school year in Uganda cost $8, but they didn't have any money or any parents to help them with that. The villagers in the surrounding them, generally in Africa, communities take care of one another, but in this case, the villagers around their little broken down hut had sort of abandoned them because of some weird stuff their dad did before he died. It was rough. And I've been with the poorest of the poor in lots of places in the world, China and India and different parts of Africa and Central America, but I had never been with kids who did not have an adult to care for them. It just broke my heart, and it changed us forever. And Eric and I knew in that moment, this is where we're supposed to go deeper. And so since then, we figured out a way to sponsor these kids, and we have been sponsoring them for the last 6 years and being the only parents they have, and it's changing our lives. And I don't tell you the story to say, look how amazing we are, because I don't think we're amazing. I think you would have done the exact same thing. I tell you the story to share about how much joy we have received in caring for these kids. And every time I get a text, we have a guy over there that helps care for them, and every time I get a text from them that sends us pictures of the kids or sends me their report cards, because I get their report cards because I'm their mommy, about how they're doing in school, or I get texts sometimes around the holidays that send love to Mama Heather. It literally, the joy leaks out of my eyes. We love these kids like they're our kids, and I don't get to see them very often, but these kids are thriving because we get to spend time with them. This is a picture of Michael, the oldest. This was taken 2 years ago when I was there. And Michael, when we first met him when he was 15, the caseworker told us he had just the week before had come into her office and asked for this pill that you can take your life. Because he was in such despair about not being able to care for his sisters. This is Michael now, 2 years ago actually. But this is Michael now. I went out to visit him at his vocational school. He just finished a couple months ago this program in carpentry. And he's finished a 3-year program in carpentry, and he's looking for a job. And look at that smile. Can you believe it? He's amazing. You look at my smile. I'm so happy to be with him. And so it's changing them, and it's changing us. This is the 2 littlest girls. The picture on the left this is Scovia and Nancy. The picture on the left is them at boarding school in the yellow shirts. When I was there a couple of years ago, we got them into boarding school because they were living on their own and not very safe. And so now they're getting 3 meals a day in the best boarding school in northern Uganda. It costs us very little money, and they are healthy and thriving, and I get their report cards, and it's great. And this picture on the right is them at Christmas time this year, actually. We sent a little extra money, not so that they would just have clothes to wear, but something beautiful, because every girl needs to feel beautiful. And I got these pictures from them, and they loved the clothes. A couple of them, they had these sunglasses on, and they're looking so cool. And it just brings us delight. These kids are alive because we care for them. But I would tell you that I am way more alive because we care for them. Eric and I are not wealthy, by this country's standards anyway, but we know that we've been given some resources, and we want to share those. And we're going to keep sharing them with people here, and we're going to share them with our kids in Uganda and other people around the world, because generosity is changing us. It's changing other people too, but it's changing us. And we want more of that. And that's why I believe that generosity changes everything. It changes lives and families and hopes and dreams and communities, and it's changing me, and it will change you. So you probably guessed I'm going to close tonight by encouraging you to be generous, because you're right. I think it's the best thing. I think it's so fun. It's one of the best things happening in my life. And so I want to encourage you to respond to that nudge that happens sometimes in your spirit to do something. Give us the guy that's making your sandwich at Subway, give him a kind word. And so I actually thought up a couple examples for you. You can think of lots of ways you can be generous, but I thought up a couple fun ones. Next time you're in the Starbucks drive-thru, pay for the coffee of the guy in the car behind you. He won't ever know who you are, but he'll be totally delighted and surprised, and you'll be kind of tickled about it all day that you did this kind of anonymous, generous act. Or invite the widow that lives across the street over for dinner. Sponsor a child-headed family in Uganda. Give a kind word to the checker at the grocery store that you see all the time, or the person who cleans your office or cleans your house. There are so many ways that we can be generous, and I bet you can think of lots and lots of them. And as I was thinking of all these ideas, trying to brainstorm fun things to give you little spurts of generosity, I actually came up with an even better idea. And I am literally actually shaking up here with joy right now because I'm so excited to be telling you. I've been keeping this secret for like a month, and I'm very excited. I thought, what if just encouraging all these people to be generous, you were generous with them? What if I gave you the resources to be generous with? And as I thought about that idea, like I literally stopped, like the joy was spilling out of my eyes, and I hadn't even done it yet, and I was having joy. And so I'm excited to tell you that in the goodie bag that you'll take home tonight, there's a $20 bill. And it's for you, not to spend on yourself, but to give away. I want you to experience the joy that those college students experienced from generosity instead of consumption, because I think it's way better, and I want you to experience that too. And I'll tell you that these $20 bills are not all from Eric and me. There was a couple, I have this great group of generous friends, and I felt like when I got this idea, I was supposed to invite some of them in, so I did. And they all said, I'm in. And everyone who I told said, I'm in, I'm in, I'm in. I want in on your little generosity caper you're doing. And so they contributed some of the 20s too. And the people that gave to this little caper that we're doing tonight, they have all experienced the joy of generosity in their life, and they wanted you to taste it too. They're committed to a generosity movement happening in the Northwest, as am I. And what I believe about giving these 20s is that the ripple effect of this could be really something. So I attached a little card to each of the $20 bills. I don't care where you give it. I feel very laissez-faire about that. But if you experience something as you're giving it away, I created this little email address. I gave my 20 at gmail.com. Don't write it down. It's on a little card on the 20. And I want you, if you have a story, if it moved you in any way, share your story. I'd love to read it. No expectations, but share your story if you want to share your story. And so I hope that as you respond to that nudge to be generous, as you give away your 20, maybe you match it 5 times and you give away $100. Maybe you forever from now on always carry $20 bill in your wallet and keep looking for those opportunities to give it away. I hope it's addictive for you. I hope it changes you as the giver. And what I hope is that as we continue to do this and we continue to get addicted to generosity, the ripple effect of that could change the world. And I'm in for that. Thank you.